What's up? It is the Sports Live on a Monday. Hope everybody had a good weekend. The first kind of football-less weekend. The Senior Bowl was on Saturday. The Pro Bowl flag football game was on Sunday. But we're getting ready for the Super Bowl a week from yesterday. And Sam Phelan is back from the Reese's Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama. You were down there for parts of 5 days. We haven't really seen you in a while. You did a Titans at 2 midweek. But haven't seen you on the morning show in a bit. So curious to learn what you learned at the Senior Bowl this past week in Mobile, Alabama, and a new draft opportunity that could be opening up for the Tennessee Titans for the 7th overall draft pick. So Sam, I'm excited about this show. I've been ready for this show to recap that Senior Bowl and ask you guys about the position the Titans need to take with a 7th overall draft pick. We'll get Sam's Senior Bowl draft crush and his overall Mobile, Alabama experience. Maybe we'll get an update on the grocery list that we talked about on the Throwing Shade segment on Tuesday last week. And then we'll get to the age game. I am the age game master today, which is a first time for me. So Sam, welcome in. Hope you had a good week down there in Mobile.
Yeah, I'm ready to be back. I'm excited to be back. I'm excited to defend myself a little bit from the haters who are, sitting on my grocery list. Austin may be the only one, but we got a lot to talk about. There's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of opinions out there. I've had the opportunity to watch up close and personal a lot of the top draft prospects in this upcoming 2024 NFL draft and exploring what I think is an opportunity for the Titans with the 7th overall pick. A whole week to recap, Austin, and I think you've got some questions for me as well. Yeah. So I'm ready to go. I'm fired up. It's a Monday morning, and if you're watching us on this Monday morning, make sure you share the show. If you're watching on Facebook, hit the share button in the bottom right. If you're watching on YouTube, take that YouTube link, send it to a friend, send it to a group chat, text it over to somebody or repost us on Twitter and X and get it back on the timeline. Introduce more people to A to Z Sports, or if there's a Titans fan in your life that you're like, hey, let's get ready for the 2024 draft. Let's start it here today on the A to Z Sports Morning Show. So share the show before we kick things off here on a Monday morning.
Yep, let's do it officially. Welcome to A to Z Sports, powered as always by the BetMGM app. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Sam Phelan, our Titans reporter for A to Z Sports.com, and we are Nashville's on-demand sports talk network, going live weekday mornings at 8-ish a.m. Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Links to the show segment by segment on our Twitter X timeline. Also, hit us up on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads for more great Titans content. Got to thank our sponsors because they make it happen for us, and they help out all of you, like Wilson County Hyundai. Make them a part of your new car buying process by seeing them in Lebanon or online at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. The Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care, and Farm Bureau Health Plans. Get better with Farm Bureau Health Plans, fbhp.com/ATOZ. Krebs Kubota, an elite Kubota dealer with 3 great locations across the mid-state, Columbia, Franklin, and in Murfreesboro. They are online at KrebsKubota.com. So, Sam, Senior Bowl week overall, a success for you guys because we had 6 of y'all in an Airbnb in Mobile, Alabama. I heard no bad stories that came out of it yet. So, overall, everything smooth, everything good down there at Mobile, Alabama.
Yeah, I think it turned out to be a productive week. I was a little skeptical when we first got down there. That first day, I was about halfway into the first practice. I was feeling a little bit sunburned. The practice, they were not doing anything at practice. I think I looked over at Destin Adams and said, hey, confirmed, not a Senior Bowl guy. 24 hours later, my tune had shifted dramatically because I had gotten a much better view of practice and I was able to actually enjoy and get some production out of practice, being down on the field level from the Senior Bowl, and gathered some good information. So I think overall it turned out to be a very productive week for everybody involved. I feel very much more familiar with the draft prospects that are getting ready to come out in this next year's class, which is the overall goal of being down at the Senior Bowl. And I think we got some good content out of it too. So I would give it a big resounding thumbs up and just an overall productive, positive experience.
Yeah, and excited about what we're going to have coming out of that with our foundation for our draft coverage being set by our team down there in Mobile, Alabama for the Senior Bowl. So, Sam, it's been the conversation ever since we started talking about draft order watch for the Titans of you have to get a left tackle in the first round of the NFL draft, whether they're picking 5th, 6th, 7th, or 8th. We know they're picking 7th. But offensive line, Joe Alt has been the conversation for the last 2 months, maybe even longer than that, 2.5 months, almost 3 months for some people, talking about Joe Alt from Notre Dame becoming the Titans' next great left tackle potentially or hopefully. But what happened down there on the practice field that makes you think that that's not completely the only decision the Titans can make at number 7 overall is that left tackle?
Well, yeah, I think I look at two things, and it's two different position groups, and not just the top tier talent at two position groups, those being offensive tackle and wide receiver, but you really have to look at what the depth in the draft class looks like, and what you have potentially there for you at 39 overall, or what you could have for you in the 4th round or there in the 3rd round that you could trade back into the 3rd round to maybe go and get. The Titans, I think those are the two obvious needs, right? They need to add to the offensive line, and I think they need to add to a wide receiver. You could add DB to the wish list. You could add defensive line to the wish list. There's a number of things that you could say, hey, this fills a need. And should there be a player that excels that falls to them somewhere on the draft board, I wouldn't hesitate to necessarily take it. But I think in the mind of every Titans fan, you'd like to come away from those first 2 picks having found a solution to at least one offensive line spot and hopefully added a receiver to your group. And so what I noticed being down there, quite frankly, is that there is just depth at the offensive line position that I don't believe exists at wide receiver. I mean, I'm looking at the consensus big board right now, Austin, and I look at wide receiver. You've got Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze. After that, it goes Brian Thomas Jr., Keon Coleman, who I think has fallen down a lot of draft boards recently, Adonai Mitchell out of Texas, Troy Franklin out of Oregon. The guys that were down at the Senior Bowl, like Ladd McConkey and Xavier Legette and Devontae Walker and Ricky Pearsall, these day 2 receivers, I didn't find any of them all that impressive. I thought Roman Wilson was good, and he was just about the only good wide receiver there. Like, to be honest with you, I think Ladd McConkey was as advertised, not special to me. I think Brendan Rice has a lot of physical ability to be a threat that you can get in the later rounds and put opposite of DeAndre Hopkins and have as a red zone threat, but I'm not convinced he can run a complete route tree or has the speed to separate. And I started growing concerned with what the Titans wide receiver options would be if they don't take one at 7 overall.
Ooh.
And I think there's more options at offensive tackle. I mean, I'm falling in love standing out there watching the offensive tackle 10 in the draft class. And I'm just impressed with him. And I think he fits a lot of their needs. And I think you can mold and work with somebody like that more than you can the wide receiver 10. And I started thinking, well, would it be the worst thing in the world if you just took a receiver or took a weapon at 7 overall and decided to sit there and take a depth offensive lineman that you can develop at 39? And then I started to sit there again and think a little bit more about the fact that you have Bill Callahan as your offensive line coach, somebody who you finally feel confident can develop offensive line talent. And then I realized you have Brian Callahan as your head coach, somebody that was the offensive coordinator in Cincinnati when they looked at Penei Sewell and said, I'm okay, we're going to take Jamar Chase. And I started to feel like this is an opportunity for the Titans to kill 2 birds with 1 stone by drafting one of the top receivers at 7 and finding one of these good offensive line talents that might be raw, but is able to be developed at 39.
Okay. So what you're telling me is that you can get a starter on the offensive line a lot later than you can get a starter and a quality player, like quality starter on the O-line later than a quality starter at wide receiver.
Yes, starter is all relative to me here a little bit, because I think you can get a left tackle with a ceiling to be an elite left tackle, but like that you can at least work on to be a starting caliber left tackle and a solid left tackle in the National Football League. I think at best, if you're going for some of these day two wide receivers, you're going to get a role player within a system that can be just that, like a secondary or a second or third option in your offense. But if you take one of these top guys, and it's why Jody here comments trade back, then you don't trade back, because if you trade back, you're not getting one of these elite wide receivers. You might not get one anyway. There is a world where Rome Odunze, Malik Neighbors, and Marvin Harrison Jr. all go off the board in the first 6 picks. And if that happens,
would be insane though, right?
3 quarterbacks, 3 receivers seems to be a popular thought right now, that's how it might play out. And then the Titans are left with offensive tackle 1 in Joe Alt. If that happens, your decision's kind of made for you. But if you're left with like an opportunity to take Rome Odunze or Malik Neighbors, 2 guys I think are difference makers. I think there's 3 wide receiver 1s in this class. And so I like Adonai Mitchell, but I think the drop off is pretty significant. Why not try and do both?
Now, here Charles brings up Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers is the guy that you hope can slide up and be drafted in that top 6 to push somebody down toward. But I don't. That's so high.
Bowers might not go in the top 10. Tight ends,
which is
weird.
Crazy.
I mean, tight ends are weird. Like you see guys like last year where Dalton Kincaid is probably supposed to go in the top 15, and then he's still sitting there at 25. And you're just kind of waiting for the right team with the right fit and the right circumstances where they feel like they can go take a tight end. I'm not sure any teams are chomping at the bit to grab a tight end over a wide receiver if you're looking to add a pass catching weapon. And I'm not sure anybody's looking to add, if you have a need on defense or a need on the offensive line, right? Drafting Brock Bowers doesn't exactly solve your problems any. So could be a weird fit. And then there's teams that like already have tight ends, and unless you're just going to run 2 tight end sets all the time and you don't care about having one as an inline blocker, then maybe that's the good fit for you. But
all right, so here's I have Tankathon pulled up, which is how we've been tracking the draft order this entire season. But I've got the Tankathon mock draft that was updated after the AFC Championship game, NFC Championship game. I don't know if it's been updated post Senior Bowl or not. I don't necessarily think that matters completely, but the mock draft they have is Caleb Williams 1, Drake May 2, Jaden Daniels 3. 1, 2, 3, Chicago, Washington.
And I don't believe Jaden Daniels is going to go 3, by the way. I've been feeling this way for quite some time, but I think he's a guy that gets to the combine and weasels his way into being quarterback 2.
Oh, so you think Williams, Daniels, May. Okay, so that's another conversation. But regardless, the top 3 picks are quarterbacks. At 4, the Cardinals go Marvin Harrison Jr. At 5, the Chargers go Brock Bowers. At 6, the Giants go Malik Neighbors, the LSU wide receiver who's on the graphic today. And the Titans are at 7. And I think this is the opportunity where you're sitting there going, okay, no Neighbors, MHJ is gone. So you basically have Joe Alt or Fashanu or the other tackle.
Look at the picks right after the Titans, too. Read those off, 8, 9, and 10 real quick.
8, 9, and 10 are Dallas Turner, Rome Odunze, and Ola Fashanu.
Teams.
Oh, sorry. It's the Falcons, Bears, Jets, Vikings.
So
Falcons, Bears, Jets,
Vikings. Falcons and Bears are not going to be in the market to take a tight end, which is why I find the Brock Bowers draft stock interesting, because at 5, the Chargers are the team that is continuously linked to Brock Bowers right there at 5. But they could very easily just go with one of the receivers and try and add an offensive weapon that way. And if they do that, I think the Giants pivot to wide receiver B of those 2 options. The Titans are left with the tackle. I don't think Bowers goes to Atlanta or Chicago. And so now you're starting to see a Brock Bowers slide. It's why his stock is so interesting to me, because I think he has top 5 potential. And then I could also see a world where he slides out of the top 10.
All right. I think the Chargers also took a first-round wide receiver last year. He didn't exactly live up to hype, but still, it would be Interesting if the Chargers went and doubled down on that position when they do have some depth at the wide receiver position anyway. So, all right, Sam, let's go ahead and get to our main question today because this is interesting. So Sam has just laid out his Senior Bowl observations that he thinks the offensive line depth way overshadows any type of wide receiver depth. And so that could open up an opportunity for the Titans to go wide receiver at 7 instead of left tackle at 7. So our question to you guys, what position do you want the Titans to take with a 7th overall draft pick? What position do you want the Titans to take with that 7th overall draft pick? This is going to be fascinating to see what everybody has here. This is our first time to do this air check, right? Lick the finger, see where the wind's blowing on wide receiver versus left tackle here at 7 overall. But first, Krebs Kubota should be the only place you look when it comes to your equipment needs. Hey, it was about 65 degrees a couple days late this weekend. Now, and that means we're getting closer to spring. Punxsutawney Phil said no shadow, which means spring's coming sooner, which means those outdoor projects are just around the corner, and Krebs Kubota is where you should go for all of your equipment needs. KrebsKubota.com. They are an elite Kubota dealer with 3 great locations across the mid-state, Columbia, Murfreesboro, and in Franklin. Why are they an elite Kubota dealer? It's because the relationship they have with the national Kubota brand and the national Kubota dealership, which gives you the best equipment in the industry, also has the best warranties in the industry with the best customer service you can find across the mid-state with the Kubota family name and the Krebs family name right there. Krebs Kubota, 18 years running in the mid-state. They've grown from just Columbia to also adding the Franklin and Murfreesboro locations over the last several years as well. Online for all of your equipment needs, KrebsKubota.com.
Today's show is powered by BetMGM. BetMGM is the king of sportsbooks. Use the bonus code ATOZ Sports when you sign up with BetMGM. The big game's coming up next week. If you want to get in on the action and maybe you're picking the Kansas City Chiefs, maybe you're riding with the Niners, do all of your betting on the king of sportsbooks. When you use the bonus code ATOZ Sports, you can get up to $1,500 back into your account in the form of a bonus bet if your first bet doesn't win. So make that first bet on the big game. And even if you lose, it's going back into your account. A second chance to win big. That's the best way to do sports betting. Use BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks, and BetMGM.com for all of your picks this coming weekend.
All right, so Sam took us through his Senior Bowl observations. Deep offensive line unit, top-heavy wide receiver group with really the top 3 dudes, Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, and Rome Odunze. And then after that, a drop-off. So, look, the Titans could easily go left tackle round 1, wide receiver round 2. But, hey, the door might be open with the emerging O-line depth to go wide receiver round 1, offensive line round 2. So we ask you guys, what position do you want the Titans to take with that 7th overall draft pick? Sam, I'll send you the chat on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And we're also lacking in the like department this morning. More likes. We need more likes. So many people are watching the show that haven't hit the like button yet. So we need more likes. I do see this. Brandon says the Titans need more picks. Yeah, the Titans need more picks like A to Z needs more likes on the show. So, Sam, I will send you to the chat. What are people saying on the position they want the Titans to go with at 7th overall?
Major Keys wants a wide receiver. Jay wants a receiver. David wants a receiver. Ashley, Michael, Billy Jones, Kenneth, and Adam are all wanting an offensive tackle. So is DeMario. So is Clayton. So is Big G. I've got left tackle from Hello Ladies and from Brock. Daquan wants the receiver. So does Tighten Up Tony, George Dexter, and Marcus Walker. Curtis is on a receiver. Connor, #Q. Darius has his eyes on Joe Alt, the left tackle out of Notre Dame. Taylor has left tackle. So does Yuri. So does Scott. So does Jason. Jake says Malik Neighbors is the best option at receiver. That's where Rashid is looking as well. Kayan says wide receiver. Tighten Up says offensive tackle. Deshaun wide receiver. Clement wide receiver. Neighbors or a tackle. You didn't answer the question, Brandon. Left tackle from Damon. Wide receiver from Andrew. Left tackle from Preston. Nate's Burner wants a left tackle. Austin, this feels very split from the chat here, which I suppose could be expected. Wide receiver or left tackle? That is the question. Where are you, Austin?
All right. Look, I love myself a good wide receiver. I love the sex appeal that a first round wide receiver does for the offseason from the content machine that is A to Z Sports. That would be incredible. But don't fall into that temptation because that's what it is. It's a temptation. It's this shiny toy, the super fast car. But man, you can't even take the kids to school safely because your minivan's broken down, but you've got this 2-seat like Lamborghini in the garage, but you've got like 4 kids and you can't fit them in the Lamborghini. So, you got to take the kids to school. You have to be safe. You have to resist the temptation, and you have to go to the offensive lineman. Now, Curtis says the kids can walk to school. No, you're too far away. You're not that close. The kids can't walk to school in this situation. The school bus driver, you can't trust him. Maybe he's like one of my school bus drivers I had as a kid. Can't trust the guy. Don't do it. But I really think you can't overlook the importance of the left tackle of the future. And I understand easy is the Cincinnati decision with Jamar Chase over Penei Sewell. And Brian Callahan was literally in the room when that decision was made. But the Bengals also had a second-round wide receiver in the 30s of T. Higgins that worked out pretty damn good too. And then you look over at Detroit and what they're doing, and Penei Sewell's a freaking beast. Like, Penei Sewell is lockdown. The Detroit Lions have Jared Goff and a bunch of guys that are kind of like flirting on no-name receivers. St. Brown is a beast, right? He was a 4th-round pick. The Titans took Des Fitzpatrick instead of Amon-Ra St. Brown, which is ridiculous. But he's a 4th-round pick still. Josh Reynolds is a veteran float-around-the-league guy. We know what Khalif Raymond is, and, that's basically what they have. Now, they've got a really good tight end in Sam Laporta, who is not a first-round pick either. But look at the Detroit Lions offensive line. Look at the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line. They are homegrown offensive linemen that have been the best offensive line in the league the last 2 years. And if you can get Joe Alt at 7 overall, you can't pass that up because now you're building that foundation. You're setting up everything else around for Will Levis to have better success because he's got 2 first-round talents, potentially 2 top linemen in their respective drafts, in back-to-back drafts on Will Levis's blind side, in Joe Alt and Peter Skoronski. I think it's too smart of a decision to pass up. Wide receivers, I think Brian Callahan can find wide receivers in the middle of the draft, unlike the previous regime was able to do, because he's an offensive-minded guy who can scheme open some wide receivers that might be not special, like Ladd McConkey. Not special, right? But he's a good football player. And good coaches can find good football players and elevate them, a la Puka Nacua, right? He's nothing special. Puka Nacua is not special. Look at all of his measurables throughout the draft process last year. But he's a good football player. And I think I would rather have that and have top-tier talent on the offensive line. So I go Joe Alt.
So I think what you can do, this conversation is going to be one that we have multiple times throughout.
And that was just my first reason. I have reason number 2 that has nothing to do with anything I just said. That's more situational to this offseason. But that is my overall philosophy of the Titans is, man, you got to be able to take the kids to school and not worry about the sexy, shiny new toy.
Yeah, I mean, so this is a conversation that we're going to have multiple times throughout this offseason because I think it's so subject to change based on what else is out there. And this is part of the big cycle that is the National Football League, where free agency happens before the draft. And as we start to look at free agency for the Titans, I think wide receiver is going to be on their list of things that they at least look into. I know Titans fans are, hey, go get T. Higgins. Hey, maybe it's Tyler Boyd, right? What can you add as far as free agents are concerned? And how inclined are the Titans to pay free agent prices on particular positions when you know you are overpaying? It is a known fact. You overpay for free agents in football. It's just what it is. You have to be okay with that as a team. If the Titans go and sign T. Higgins, this offseason for whatever reason, if he's not franchise tagged by the Bengals, it changes what you do in the draft because your priorities now change. You don't need to add a DB in the draft necessarily if you can sign a couple that have some long-term value in the draft. So it's all subject to change.
Yeah.
But perhaps I'm naive, am trying to kill two birds with one stone. You mentioned Brian Callahan and Brian Callahan's ability to find wide receivers, scheme up wide receivers. What about Brian Callahan's ability to scheme up protection? Something he talked about in his opening press conference. This is Brian Callahan. I'm going to play this twice because I think there's two parts of this. Number one, talking about scheming up protection as a coach and his overall philosophy and why it's not just about the left tackle.
Protection's been a huge issue here the last few years. Yeah. How confident are you in your ability to help identify players who can fix that, and how much schematically can you fix that?
There's a lot of things that go into protection. Some of it starts with as simple as you got to go win. You got to win versus tight coverage. Protection is an everybody problem. The quarterback's got to get rid of the ball on time. They have to work through progressions quickly. So to say that it's a specifically the offensive line needs to fix the protection problem, I don't agree with that. I think it's a holistic offensive issue if you have protection problems, and there's a lot of ways you can help weaknesses, highlight strengths, and everybody's involved in the process. As far as profiles of offensive linemen and players, obviously you're looking for the guys that are great at pass pro. You're looking for guys that can anchor, guys that got great length. We'll talk about all the traits at a later date, but schematically you can help a ton. You can chip, you can bang edges. Backs got to be fantastic in pass protection. They got to know who to block and how to block them. So it's a holistic offensive issue, and so our job is to find a way to make sure everyone knows all the specifics of what we're trying to get done, and then they can technically go execute it.
So there's a lot there. And I think it's interesting that when asked about protection, Brian Callahan's first answer is, you got to win one-on-one and need to get the ball out quick. You know how you do that? Good wide receivers that get open in one-on-one.
Well, he says you have to win one-on-one, and that's everybody. That's everybody blocking and everybody in the route has to win one-on-one.
Absolutely. I think, and then he talks about, right, you can chip, you can do things schematically to help the quarterback get the ball out quicker. Scott says, well, his schemes haven't protected Joe Burrow too well. And Joe Burrow has gotten hit some, but the Bengals offense has also been good. Like them taking sacks has not been detrimental to their offense because of what Brian Callahan and Zach Taylor have schemed up in terms of creating explosive offense that allows them to overcome some negative plays. And so they can afford to not take a Penei Sewell in exchange for a Jamar Chase because they know that Jamar Chase is going to help get the ball out quicker of Joe Burrow's hands because he can get open faster and create the explosive offense that allows them to recover. Where you look at an AFC championship game against the Titans in which they sacked Joe Burrow, was it 8-9 times? They got back home to the quarterback and brought him down. They lost the football game because Joe Burrow throwing to T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase was able to create offense. So that's point number one. Point two is the depth that I just talked about and what I believe you are able to get later in the draft, specifically at pick 39, that you absolutely cannot get in a wide receiver. So allow me to introduce everybody to University of Houston left tackle Patrick Paul.
Okay.
Look at those measurables on this man.
Time out. I hate the draft of how they do the heights. How they do the hands and the arms and the wingspan. Just give us freaking foot and inch.
I agree.
I don't like this. The 4-digit thing it drives me insane because it makes me have to think too hard.
Yeah, I agree.
Go ahead. Sorry.
6'7" for those that need that translated for them.
Thank you.
333 pounds. Wingspan 86'6'8" with 36-inch arms. That's what you're looking over 36-inch arms. they look for offensive tackles to have somewhere in the range of like 33 to 36, where like 35 is viewed as very solid. He's over 35. He's over 36. And let's go to the tape. Is he strong enough? Can he dominate actually during a game? Let's go to the tape here. Go. One more time for that, in case you won't want. One more time. Go. The guy has fire. He is a boxer. I was able to talk to him for a while, one-on-one, during the Senior Bowl, after Senior Bowl practice on media day. He was talking to me about his boxing routine that helps him with his footwork and his hand placement and his hand-eye coordination. So he has a tendency sometimes to play a little bit upright. He needs to work on his hand placement and making sure that it doesn't allow him to get beat. But Titans Kyle, this is Bill Callahan coded right here. Like if there was ever a time that Bill Callahan's able to help a left tackle that is 6'7", 333 with long arms, a brother who plays in the NFL and is a boxer and tremendous athlete, this is the guy right here, Patrick Paul. And as I showed on this little graphic, big board rank of 42. He's the offensive tackle 10, which means there is a very good chance he is available to the Titans at 39. And after all of this, again, I'm going to play the Brian Callahan clip, Austin. Listen to how he describes his ideal tackle.
Protection's been a huge issue here the last few years. How confident are you in your ability to help identify players who can fix that? And how much schematically can you fix that?
There's a lot of things that go into protection. Some of it starts with as simple as you got to go win. You got to win versus tight coverage. Protection is an everybody problem. The quarterback's got to get rid of the ball on time. They have to work through progressions quickly. So to say that it's a specifically the offensive line needs to fix the protection problem, I don't agree with that. I think it's a holistic offensive issue if you have protection problems, and there's a lot of ways you can help weaknesses, highlight strengths, and everybody's involved in the process. As far as profiles of offensive linemen and players, obviously you're looking for the guys that are great at pass pro. You're looking for guys that can anchor, guys that got great length. We'll talk about all the traits at a later date, but schematically you can help a ton. You can chip, you can bang edges. Backs got to be fantastic in pass protection. They got to know who to block and how to block.
So a guy that has great length, that can anchor, a guy who's good in pass pro, also a guy that just has experience. Patrick Paul started over 40 games. I think it was like 45 games at left tackle for Houston over 4 years. There is a lot here. And so I see a comment from Jacob that says it's a giant risk. Let's say he's taken. What do we do? And there is something to that, but I don't think you go into it being zeroed in on Patrick Paul as the only guy that we can take in the second round. I just think Patrick Paul is a representation of that offensive line depth that I'm referring to.
Yeah, because you're saying he's offensive tackle 10. Right.
Yeah.
And the Titans picked 38th overall in the second round, and his consensus big board is 42.
Offensive tackles are not going before.
But how many people view Patrick Paul as a lot higher than 10? Consensus means everybody pulled together that brings up like their average. Right? All it takes is, and I think Sam froze, or maybe I froze. I don't know who froze, but all it takes is one team to fall in love with Patrick Paul in the late 20s and that wants to get this guy in the late first round, and the Titans are screwed out of it. Now, I get you're saying he is not the only option, that he is just the greatest example of why there's a lot of better depth as offensive line than than the wide receiver, because wide receiver 10 is who? Like, who's wide receiver 10?
Let's get into that, because that's what I was looking at, right? So wide receiver 10 is going to be Xavier Legette from South Carolina, who is kind of Traylon Burks-esque.
Because I think Xavier Legette,
Traylon Burks-esque.
Yeah, like his good, like if you are glass half full on Xavier Legette, then he's like AJ Brown. If you're half empty, then it's Treylon Burks.
Yeah, I mean, he was big, but I was not all that impressed with his ability to separate or his play strength. He also got hurt at some point during the week, which I was like, oh, this is like he ran a couple routes and the hamstring hurts all of a sudden. But like Devontae Walker did not have a good week. He couldn't catch anything. Like you mentioned, Ladd McConkey, who I think can be a good player in the NFL. I just don't necessarily think is special.
You have Kyle Phillips at home.
Yeah, I mean, Roman Wilson is a better version of that player who I think separates at a better rate, but is still undersized and primarily going to be used as a slot. And I think you have to get in a very good scheme. So I wasn't as impressed with those guys. I went in, Austin, really wanting to look at these receivers, and I wanted to be banging this drum of like, go get Joe Alton. Here's your second or third round receiver. There's some guys that I like. I like Jalen Polk. I like Adonai Mitchell. I don't know if either one of them is there for you in the second round. And so I think it might be the move. Maybe I'm also just way higher on these receivers than other people. But I think Neighbors, I think Odunze, I think Marvin Harrison, I think it's 3-star receivers. And if the Titans can get one, that's a huge, because hey, DeAndre Hopkins is not going to be around forever.
No, maybe one more year. That might be it. So I have this scenario that I think is the toughest choice for the Tennessee Titans. And there's been a lot of really good comments that Sam and I have favorited throughout this show so far. So I'll get to what I think might be the coin flip choice between wide receiver and left tackle at 7th overall. But first, Farm Bureau Health Plans, no coin flip. Just do it. Just go to Farm Bureau Health Plans, fbhp.com/ATOZ, and get better health coverage for your situation. Maybe you're an independent contractor, you're self-employed entrepreneur, and you're single, and you can't just jump on your spouse's plan like I do. Like Zach went to Farm Bureau Health Plans, and they've helped him out for over 2 years, made him pay less. And he's also not paying out of pocket anymore for dental and vision like he was previously. So he saved 20% a month on his health coverage and got a better plan for it. The best of both worlds, because Farm Bureau Health Plans knows how to set you up with what you need, regardless of what your situation is. Maybe you have a growing family. Maybe you got plans to have a growing family, and they can set you guys up to have the best coverage, because once you're in with Farm Bureau Health Plans, you're locked in for life in a great way, in a way that they are going to be there for you to make sure that you have what you need and to be a part of your family growth too. They've been serving Tennesseans for 76 plus years. They have 200 locations across the entire state, super accessible, but you can get started at fbhp.com/ATOZ.
Today's show is powered by BetMGM. Use the bonus code ATOZ Sports when you sign up with BetMGM. Get up to $1,500 back in the form of bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. So if you have a pick for the big game, I think I'm going to be riding with the 49ers. That's kind of where my gut is leaning. I think Brock Purdy might be a Super Bowl champion this time next week. So if you are with me, or maybe you're against me and you think the Kansas City Chiefs are taking it, do your betting with BetMGM. Use the bonus code ATOZ Sports, up to $1,500 back in your account in the form of a bonus bet if your first bet doesn't win. 2 chances to win big. That's the best way to do sports betting. So get with BetMGM and BetMGM.com.
Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. 21 or older, Tennessee only. New customer offer. All promotions are subject to qualification. Other requirements. First online real money wager only. Rewards issued non-bonus bets. Bonus bets expire 7 days. And for problem games, call Tennessee Red Line 800-889-9789. It's the same if you could. People jumping in and out. Like the show if you haven't yet, please. But go ahead and kind of reset the table on your Senior Bowl observations between the wide receivers and the offensive line, and how you kind of went in thinking one way and you've changed where the Titans have a tough decision to make it 7th overall.
Yeah, so to summarize, I went into the Senior Bowl expecting the Titans to be a lock to draft a left tackle at 7. And I was intrigued at watching cornerbacks and wide receivers and saying, hey, which of these guys sticks out as a potential pick for the Titans in the second round? Very quickly started to not be impressed by many of the receivers, a lot of them day 2 or day 3 receivers that were at the Senior Bowl. but growingly impressed with some of the offensive linemen. And I believe that this draft has more offensive line depth than wide receiver depth. And so it begs the question, are the Titans better off grabbing that stud wide receiver, Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze, whoever it is at 7, trusting the offensive line depth to fall to them at 38, you said, Austin, is the pick? Or should they just stick to the plan, if assuming it is the plan, right? Or make the easy, safe choice and go with Joe Alt or Olu Fashanu and take the tackle? Austin wants the offensive lineman at 7. I'm thinking of taking the big swing at one of the receivers and getting one of these depth tackles in the second round.
So here is what I think is the toughest decision, depending on how the board falls. And we don't know how it's going to fall until the Titans are there sitting at 7th overall, and somebody from A to Z will be live during the NFL draft like we are every year. If the Titans are on the clock at 7 and Joe Alt and Malik Neighbors are both sitting there, I think that's the hardest decision. I think it's those two players make it tough. It's the best tackle on the board and the best receiver not named Marvin Harrison Jr. on the board. If there's anything different, if Alt's gone and it's Fashanu versus Neighbors, maybe it's Neighbors. If Neighbors is gone and Alt's still there and it's Alt versus Odunze, is it more leaning towards Alt? How do you feel about that being a really tough coin flip? I think those players are probably the highest.
So I believe Joe Alt is here for me. Fashanu is below Alt. I would say definitely prefer Joe Alt. That's just my opinion. I think if Alt is off the board, it's no question regardless. I think Neighbors and Odunze are a little bit more interchangeable for me. So I'm not sure which receiver is available. Shifts my opinion a ton. But I do believe which tackle is on the board. Like I think it's a difficult call if Joe Alt is there. If Joe Alt is not there, I think it's a slam dunk that you take a receiver, regardless of Fashanu's status.
Right. So Andre with the super chat says, I really agree with Sam, but he's spot on. I hate / love how people always have to like preface something. It's like, I rarely agree with one of us.
As a Titans fan. Yeah. Or as a whatever fan.
Yeah, you don't have to do that. But elite wide receiver with above average left tackle beats elite left tackle and above average wide receiver any day. I've been banging the table for Neighbors. I mean, I think that like both are great. Like I think look at the Cincinnati Bengals this year, because Kane says, why did Cincy choose a wide receiver over the O-line? Here's a big player in that decision that I think we have overlooked in today's conversation, is that Jamar Chase won a national championship and caught like 20-something touchdown passes that last year in college with Joe Burrow. and then Jamar Chase opted out of the COVID year, so he didn't play with the post-Joe Burrow LSU team, and boom, there you go. So the fact that it was college teammates in those situations is a factor into that. It has to be, because if Jamar Chase did not play with Joe Burrow, does that decision from the Bengals change? Probably some.
Maybe.
That has to be a big factor in that. Like Joe Burrow won the Heisman Trophy and LSU blew out Clemson in the national title game and had a phenomenal season because those two guys were unstoppable together. And if you have an opportunity to bring them back and do it again, then you take advantage of that chemistry day one, because you're not starting over day one. Because Will Levis doesn't have that with Neighbors or with Odunze or with anybody. That does play a factor into that.
I think it's more about, though, like the Bengals were all about prioritizing their quarterback. They thought that pairing Burrow with his college wide receiver and a tremendous wide receiver prospect in Jamar Chase was the best thing for Joe Burrow, rather than grabbing one offensive lineman to potentially protect him. And I think there is something to be said about the fact that one wide receiver changes your offense. One offensive tackle does not change your protection. because, as Brian Callahan brought up, it's a holistic team thing that not only requires 5 offensive linemen, requires a good blocking tight end and a running back who can step up and pass pro and a quarterback that can get the ball out quickly. So I think if you're looking at, hey, how do we get an impact from one player and one pick, drafting the wide receiver is how you change your offense. Giving Joe Burrow Jamar Chase is what is best for Joe Burrow. That was the Bengals' approach to it.
But is it best for Levis though? Because Levis, look, this is the crazy
look at
thing.
Will Levis and say, this is a guy that we know likes to air the ball out. Traylon Burks has not been it. He can't stay on the field and hasn't been able to catch the deep balls and with the play strength you thought he would. Nick Westbrook-Ikine and Chris Moore are all limited ceilings and they're whatever.
And they might not be here.
Something happened with some of those guys last year, and they might not even be here next year because they're both free agents. DeAndre Hopkins is good. He's a future Hall of Famer, but he's a future Hall of Famer that relies on contested catches more than he does separation, particularly deep down the field and on vertical routes. So maybe what the Titans determine is best for Will Levis is a wide receiver that can win one-on-one, get open quickly, and can be a guy that you ask yourself, how the heck is he that wide open? Because every other good quarterback in the league seems to have that guy. Will Levis doesn't have that guy right now.
Right. And yeah, I think DeAndre Hopkins was one of the 10 least open receivers in the NFL this season.
It's his game. It's what he's made a Hall of Fame career on doing, and it's tremendous, and there's a purpose for it. And
he's a pull-up jump shooter, right? Like he's a pull-up jump shooter. He's going to hit tough shots with a hand in his face, but that's what he's really good at. And you can't stop it. And it's defeating from a defensive back standpoint. We're like, man, I was right there. I was all over this guy's hip, but he still makes this damn catch. And now it's a 30-yard gain. It's 1st and 10 Titans at the 20. So look, for me, it's just kind of borderline arrogant to pass on somebody like Joe Alt. And look, don't get me wrong. If the Titans end up with Malik Neighbors or Rome Odunze and in the two-tone blue in the draft, I'm going to be excited about it because of what juice that brings to the fan base with a new head coach and all this. But I think a good question to ask Brian Callahan at some point this offseason pre-draft is about that. How much did Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase doing what they did in college 2 seasons before go into drafting Chase over Penei Sewell? And seems like Brian Callahan's a pretty open guy and will answer questions pretty transparently. Maybe he gives somebody a little bit of an insight into that because somebody said, Austin, you can't assume that. And you're right, you can't assume that, but you can connect those dots, and those dots are not that far apart. Like, they're pretty close together.
Here's what I will say about the Titans draft. We can have this conversation all we want about maybe you take the wide receiver because the offensive tackle that you want is there at 38. We can have that conversation in reverse and say, take the tackle and look at those day 2 wide receivers. I can tell you what the Titans aren't going to do, and it's dictate their first pick based off of what they may or may not be able to get in the second round. They are going to pick the best player available on their board, regardless about what the depth in this draft class is. That I know for sure. Yeah. So I think you can have your rooting interest as a fan because of like, I wouldn't be surprised if they will go offensive tackle at 7 and then go back to offensive line in the second round. And we're having another why the heck aren't you taking a wide receiver conversation? And we'd be right to have that conversation, but they're also just going to go down the board.
Here's where, and I mentioned at the top of the show when I said my number one reason to take offensive linemen and left tackle at 7 is because you have to be able to take the kids to school, and you have too many kids to drive the 2-seater Lambo to them to go to school, right? Kids might think it's great. All their friends might get jealous,
and they're gonna get popular. They're gonna be popular.
Yeah, I said the minivan. Joe Alt's on a minivan. Joe Alt is like the Hyundai Palisade. It's the sick big SUV, the luxury SUV that you can take and you can fit everybody in there because not all the kids' friends can't ride in the Lambo, but they can ride in the Palisade to and from soccer practice. But if you look at the free agents, that's where I feel like I would rather free agent duct tape receiver than I would free agent duct tape offensive line. And maybe I can just leave it at that, and we can talk about that at a later date.
Yeah,
too.
it's an interesting question because, I mean, receivers are historically the most overpaid position in free agency.
Offensive line is even crazier. So maybe I'll just drop that there, and we could talk about that maybe Wednesday or later in the week there too. So, all right. So, Sam, I want to get to your other Senior Bowl observations. I want to learn who your Senior Bowl draft crush is and maybe what that can mean for the Tennessee Titans. But first, tell us all about the Bone and Joint Institute.
The Bone and Joint Institute, they're the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Don't fumble on your recovery. Go to the Bone and Joint Institute with a state-of-the-art rehab facility and good, reliable doctors to get the care and treatment that you need. They're located out in Franklin. As James Foster and I were driving out to the kind of sunny, surprisingly sunny Mobile, Alabama last week, we drove right by the Bone and Joint Institute. And I said, that's a spot I can go to get some good care if I ever need an appointment. Schedule an appointment with them at boneandjointtn.org. Their facility has everything all under one roof so that you're not driving all over Middle Tennessee to get to your different appointments. Rehab, clinic, image, surgery, testing. It's all there in Franklin. Again, go online, visit the website, schedule your appointment at boneandjointtn.org.
And with BetMGM, you can always win big with our bonus code ATOZ Sports for the best first bet offer on the market. That's up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses, but you get the big game coming up in less than a week, and you can win big but not have to go as big with your own money, and that's with our code ATOZ200. That's ATOZ200 when you download the BetMGM app and sign up with that bonus code, and all you have to do, a $5 money line wager on the big game instantly wins you $158 in bonus bets. That's instantly, regardless of that moneyline wager's outcome. So $5 on the money line, either side of the big game, $158 in bonus bets instantly with the king of sportsbooks. That's with our bonus code ATOZ200. So Sam, you were down there at the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama. I got several questions for you, maybe a little rapid fire question, but first, who was your Senior Bowl draft crush? As you were driving back for 6.5 hours on Friday, who could you not stop thinking about?
Yeah, there's one guy that I found myself watching maybe more often than I should have during practice, because as we'll get into here, Austin, I don't believe he will be available for the Tennessee Titans to pick in the second round. I actually was hearing a little bit of buzz around the league that this guy's going in the first round, even if the big boards might not have him in the first round. He's going to find his way. And it's T'Vondre Sweat, the University of Texas defensive tackle. Here's a video, and then we'll talk about it.
Sit down, sit down. Oh!
This guy standing there, Austin, just standing at the line, covers two gaps. Covers two gaps, just stand there. He is bigger than he looks on video. Like, legitimately felt like there were two defensive tackles inside of him while he is at the line. It is not fair for him to go up one-on-one against a center. You almost guaranteed have to double team this guy because he might have 100 pounds on your center. He didn't weigh in at the Senior Bowl. He said 360. Some think 380, but he didn't weigh in. We don't know what he weighs in. I don't really care what he weighs in. You saw him running. He moves so well for a big man. He has a high motor. He's a plus athlete. He's got this swagger and like moxie to him too, where he knows how good he is and how dominant he can be. I was like, yeah, that bull rush, I'm talking to him. He goes, I don't even go to the bull rush all that often. It's just not fair. I like to try and like get into my other arsenal.
I want to challenge myself.
Yeah, he literally said those words. He's like, I like more of a challenge than just bull rushing a guy. I was standing there with Teron Davenport. We're like, hey, big dog, whatever works, you got to do at the next level. find penetration and just do that. The thought of him being on a Titans defensive line with Jeffrey Simmons at the same time was just so fun for me that I found myself watching him over and over and over again. I think whoever gets him is going to be an absolute stud. MB says he's a 2-down player. Maybe. I think he said one of the things I'm looking to prove throughout the pre-draft process is that I can pass rush. I get people asking me all the time, oh, can a big boy pass rush? Look at the tape. You tell me. I think he can do it all. I think he can be really, really good at the NFL level. And even if he is a 2-down player, he's an absolute game wrecker on first and second down. So T'Vondre Sweat was my draft crush. I don't think he ends up being a Titan. I don't think there's any way he escapes the first round, but that was my guy throughout the week.
I guess the 3-down player is like, can that guy's oxygen last more than 2 consecutive snaps? That is kind of what I feel like too.
If you watch his tape, he's got stamina. Like the guy can chase down a run play on the other side of the field. Jeff says he's not pass rushing, he's pass walking. He's going to run a sub 540 at the combine. Just letting you know, at 360 pounds. Like he can move.
Yeah, but what's his first 10 split?
Like I'm letting you know that like, all of some of these measurables that are freaky about this guy is that he's scary fast and moves scary well for a guy that big.
Yeah. I also, when I saw that clip that you took of him just bull rushing whoever that center was, I watched
it's an all SEC center out of
it's an Arkansas center who's really good. And I was like, that hurt me. Like that physically hurt my back. It physically hurt both of my knees. And I didn't watch it again. Like it makes me cringe because I feel empathy. I feel the pain of that all SEC center just getting bent backwards by Sweat.
Yeah, those centers were it was just not fun for them.
It's bad business.
This guy,
it's bad business for that guy because same scouts are watching him too.
No, and he had a couple reps where he kind of does some of that same like jump back sort of like rep. Did it really well, stayed low, and I'm watching it, and I leaned over to Nick Suss, who was next to me, watching some of the O-line, D-line reps, and I just see he can do it there because he doesn't have T'Vondre Sweat pushing him over. You do it against T'Vondre Sweat, you get folded like a lawn chair and end up having to go to the joint chiropractic or the Bone and Joint Institute.
Yeah, right. It looked like Sweat was Bill's Mafia jumping off of a snow pile, and the center was the folding table. That's exactly what that was.
No, absolutely.
So that's your draft crush with Sweat. I know there's been there's a cornerback that raised some eyebrows there.
Yep.
And we'll talk more about that.
Quinyon Mitchell's so good. And I hate it because he's also going in the first round. And he's somebody else who I was just so impressed with. His hips are so fluid. Flips his hips really well. Good vertical speed. You're not going to beat him over the top on a vertical breaking route. Maybe sometimes you can snap something inside, especially in like a one-on-one, and you can beat him. But I was looking for a Titans D that keeps getting beat on explosive pass plays. And then I'm watching Quinyon Mitchell in one-on-ones going against receivers. He's longer and faster than all of them. And he's just able to lock him up. So he was another guy. I'm like, oh, please, something happened and let him go to 38 overall. Like, that'd be great. I don't see it happening, though.
All right, so rapid fire questions for Sam while at the Senior Bowl. How would you describe Mobile, Alabama, the city, in one sentence? So I'll give you a time to think about it. How would you describe
without the people?
New Orleans without the people?
Yeah, it's very New Orleans and like Charleston vibes, but smaller than both. It's like if New Orleans was a ghost town. There's nobody there. And yet, got all this. Seriously, we've got like Veets is one of the popular bars that people go to. So you got people at the hotel, at Veets, and at like the local burger spot. And then if you're on the street, it looks like New Orleans. And it's just nobody. There's nobody. Yeah.
Orlando. I'm from Mobile. That's the perfect explanation. They're coming from Orlando.
It was just, I was kind of like, dang, this place rocks. This is like,
Charleston
I love
cool.
Charleston.
Yeah.
I love New Orleans. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, this is both of those places. I'm just like, where's where's the stuff? Like, where's the stuff happening?
All right. So another rapid fire question. Who is an NFL name that you can now name drop on about somebody that you interacted with, networked with, that other people would find cool? Just give us one.
Mike Tomlin.
Mike Tomlin. So you got
I'm not sure I'd consider it networked, but like we're in the same conversations and stuff. It was
just casual conversations with Mike Tomlin.
On the field, we're in the same scouting bubble here. So, I mean, that was the funny thing that, James Foster cut up a clip of me, Mike Tomlin, and Matt Eberflus side by side watching the offensive lineman. And I was kind of like, all right, that's pretty cool that like I'm standing next to Mike Tomlin watching tape or whatever, yeah, not trying to distract anybody, trying to be a fly on the wall. But, sometimes you look over, I'm standing in the end zone and I'm realizing, oh, that is Jerry Rice right there next to me. That's a bit wild. Like, I don't know. I don't usually get like that, but there were some guys there that.
Jerry Rice will do that to you.
Sure. There was a few, like, I'm not really like that at all with players and athletes in general. I very rarely have like a whoa kind of moment, but like walking and then like looking up and realizing that it was Jerry Rice here and T.O. over there was kind of like hold on. Whoa, let me get my bearings about me here. Something's going on. So.
Yeah. Here's an important question from the chat. Do you want to disclose your secrets here?
Charisma.
Okay.
And
Charisma.
Critical thinking skills and charisma.
There you go. Did you guys eat everything that you purchased at Kroger or wherever you shopped?
So
on the A to Z dime.
Maybe this is a poor admission because I think it works against my point, which we'll get into. I was like the only one that ate all of it, but like I ate all of it. But I think part of that was just like other guys were trying to experience Mobile a little bit, and they were like, "Oh, well, I'm going to go out here. I'm going to go out here. I'm going to go get oysters, or I'm going to go to barbecue." And I was kind of like, I'm gonna make the brat that I have in the fridge right now, and I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna
eat all this meat, cheese, and bread that I bought because Austin gave me $200 to do it.
Exactly. I mean, hey, I haven't watched the clip of you making fun of me on the morning show last week, but it was absolutely unwarranted. Absolutely,
it was funny. It was hilarious.
Absolutely terrible. $200. I think I'm feeding 6 guys for 5 days, trying to come up with like a budget for all of us and what we can all eat. I have to go, number one, protein. How do I get protein? So I maximize the meat that will be filling and will be easy to cook. I'm not trying to get like these fancy meats that are going to take forever.
No, for sure.
We have long days that needed quick meals. And so I said, I can get sausage, I can get burgers, I can throw them on a skillet. In my defense, I was the cook for the entire week. We got back from practice. Everybody goes to writing. I made everybody lunch every day. I said, does anybody need a burger or a brat? I'm going to fire up a bunch of food. I'm going to make grilled chicken sandwiches. Does anybody want one? I was looking for things that were quick and easy. That's fine. Vegetables and fruits are expensive in today's economy, in today's America. Austin.
Look,
I'm not burning my budget on vegetables and fruits when I need to make sure the dogs are fed and we get our protein in us.
Major Key says $200 ain't nothing. Look, and I wasn't trying to. $200 was the right amount for what you guys needed. It was breakfast to have something there, to have something around. But I knew you guys
heavy egg. We went heavy bread. We went heavy meat. Hey. I was expecting, all right, you guys are going to be up early, starting quick. So I was expecting to get things that you can eat for breakfast and just grab them out of the fridge or grab them off the counter and go, like an apple, a banana. I bought 60 eggs and it was just a mass scramble every morning.
Just scrambled like 18 eggs at a time.
Correct. Or I was frying
really
eggs. That was the other thing I was doing. I was making big plates of like a bunch of fried eggs, and I was just like, "Yo, fried eggs."
That does sound great. That does sound great. So look, I think $200 was the right amount of groceries for what your guys' days were going to be. I was just expecting more diversity and quick and go stuff, not like prepare. But hey, props to you
But
for
I'm
being
also
the house chef.
I don't enjoy whatever. I don't like stuff that's like pre-made. Like I need to be able to cook it myself.
No, I'm with you on that.
So okay, yeah, you would get that. But hey, I tried my best. I was chefing. I was doing what I could.
There you go. All right. So those are my rapid fire questions for Sam. You'll have Titans at 2 a little bit later on today for more Senior Bowl reaction as well. What's up? You
Well, came as super chat we didn't get to.
Yeah.
That he threw into the mix, talking about Brian Callahan, saying he leans towards someone who scores points, probably referring to that first round draft pick conversation. This is going to be the topic, I think, like a constant topic up until draft day, Austin. This is going to be something to think about. What is Brian Callahan's philosophy? Where does he have a Joe Alt versus a Malik Neighbors on his big board? And, what do the Titans value most right now for Will Levis? Like, you're not drafting for one player, but I do think you're kind of drafting for one player, or at least how you can maximize one player. And does the left tackle or the stud wide receiver, put them in that spot? And what does their free agent class do to impact that? Those are the topics that we'll continue discussing here on A to Z Sports throughout the next few months.
There you go. All right. So more of that Titans at 2 later on today. Sam, it is now time for the Monday age game. First, quick shout out to Wilson County Hyundai. Make them a part of your new car buying process. WilsonCountyHyundai.com is their website. You can go see him in Lebanon. Save some money in that next ride. Say hey to Payne Bone while you're out there. He runs the show at Wilson County Hyundai with his great team at WilsonCountyHyundai.com. So, Sam, I need you to hide the chat so you cannot see the answers coming in here. And look, this is my first time being the age game master. This is
did it for me one time.
Did I? Maybe it's my second time. My first time was not memorable. If you want to go that direction. So for the age game, I just went to the day's birthdays. So no Googling. First correct answer wins the prize.
Remind me what this is again. It's one person, and I tell you the age of that person.
You have to guess their age, and there's no, plus or minus a year or 2 years. You have to get it dead on. No Googling. And the first chat correct that I see is today's champion, as Zach Bingham says. Happy birthday today. How old is soccer superstar Cristiano Ronaldo today?
Ooh.
How old is soccer superstar Cristiano Ronaldo today? So, Sam, you cannot see the chat. You're not supposed to. So
I cannot see the chat.
I will get your answer first, and then I will go to the chat to see who correctly answered the fastest.
He's been around for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's in the GOAT conversation. So I would have to think minimum 10-year career for Ronaldo at this point. And he started young. That's how they do it in soccer. But I would say he is on we're north of 30. But I think he might be sneaky young. I'm going to say today. So today's his birthday?
Today is his birthday. February 5th.
Cristiano Ronaldo turns 31 today.
31 is your answer.
That's going to be my guess.
How old is Cristiano Ronaldo today? Mikey, the first answer, fast fingers on Facebook with a 27. That is incorrect. Nick with a 34. That is incorrect. 48 from Ashley. Nope, that's
lower.
Incorrect. Jake Hughes with a 41. Nick B on YouTube with a 41. You said what, Sam? 31?
31.
This might be the fastest correct answer that I can remember, because it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The sixth fastest answer nailed it. Orlando Jones.
Wow.
Cristiano Ronaldo, happy 39th birthday to Cristiano Ronaldo. Orlando, boom, dude. That was so fast. Like, there is no threat of Google for how
39.
fast that was.
Wow.
Yeah, you said 10-year career minimum. Dude's been around for about 20 playing professionally.
20 just feels long for him. Like, I would have pinned him as like a 2010 playing professional soccer kind of guy.
Cristiano Ronaldo, let's see what his years active in soccer are. He went pro, if I can pull up the website fast enough. Let's see here.
When did he make like one of the EPL or something like that? Or I guess he was in La Liga for a bit, but
well, I believe his Portugal debut, his international debut was in 2000. Oh, that was under, never mind. That was under 715. His national team debut for Portugal was 2003.
oh yeah. See, I would have thought way later than that. I would have thought about 7 years later than that, which is
Man U at 2003. He played a couple years with Sporting CP's A team in 02 and 03. But Cristiano Ronaldo is 39 years old. So Orlando, big shout out for Orlando, who gets the 40% off all of our merch. shop.a2zsportsnashville.com.
Wait, yeah. So hang on though, because Andrew says so Madrid in 2014 was when he was playing in La Liga. So I don't feel like I'm that far off because I don't pay attention to the Portugal national team. I know Ronaldo from his time
He
with
played
Madrid.
for Manchester United in 2003.
All right, well that's bad. That doesn't help.
That's what I'm saying.
But I don't know. I think of him as being on Madrid. So
Yeah, he was with Man U from 03 to 2009. And then he was with Madrid from 09 to 2018.
No, I'm taking that as a win though, because in my head I said 2010 Madrid is Ronaldo.
Yeah, but you said he was
like dead on
8 years off.
Sure. I thought he was like more of a young buck when he started with Madrid. I didn't realize.
No. See, you were almost exactly 25% off.
I'm not saying I was close.
You're 20% off. Exactly.
I'm saying I'm happy that I pinned the team that he was on the year that he was on. That's a win for me.
Yeah. Well, no, it's a loss for you. Orlando gets a big win. So shout out to Orlando, 39 years old for Cristiano Ronaldo. So happy birthday to him. Sam, you'll be live for Titans at 2 later on today, and Buck Rising live tonight for A to Z Sports Prime Time, talking more Titans. But don't forget to hit that like button on your way out. Way more people are watching than I hit the like button. I don't understand it. When I watch shows that I like, I hit the like button because it's a good thing to do. It's nice to do. It's like paying it forward at the coffee window. So hit that like button for us, please, and we'll catch you guys tomorrow on a Tuesday. Appreciate it as always.